Hello, Amit sir.
Okay. Am I
This
visible?
is
And
sir. Yes, you are as shining and glowing as you appear in your pictures on the Google.
yeah. So just to tell the audience, we tried to do this on the computer, but I don't think that this works on the computer. Anyway, this is the first time I'm trying this Instagram live. So
Yes, sir. Therefore, we because you
somebody else,
said that you
uh,
would. Oh,
yeah, somebody else handles my Instagram account. So I don't even know how Instagram works.
okay, okay, sir.
Anyway, if we are live now, good. We can You can start. I think.
Okay, sir. Now that we are here, sir, just let me begin. And so, hello everyone. We are welcoming Mr. Amit Bagaria ji, the author of 14 books, the ferocious and very brave best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, the author with guts, as said by many. Why I call you the author with guts, sir? Because I was reading a lot of online reviews of your books, right? And on
Okay.
Quora, there's somebody who's mentioned he is the author with guts. Okay. And in
Okay.
short, if I have to tell you what Mr. Amit Bagaria is to all the audiences who are watching now and in the future, he is A to L. A to L is author, blogger, consultant, development guru, entrepreneur, father, globe trotter, Indian journalist, knowledge angel, and leader. Okay, angel से sir, are you an angel investor as well?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome, sir. So देख के ऐसा लगता नहीं है that your brain of yours has so much of content that can do the entire history of India uthal puthal करके and bring out the facts, right? Now with titles such as USAMA, Usama, Modi stole my mask, Namu or Mona or Tina, Congress Mukt Bharat, I Spy, Spies and Lies, OK Tata, Demystifying Myths, 72 at 72, Mr. President, yes, Prime Minister. Sir, we want to welcome you and begin with this first question, and that is how do you get these catchy titles? How do you decide your titles?
So, man, before becoming a full-time author, uh, I spent about 14 years or 15 years in as a consultant in the real estate development sector as a development consultant. And part of my company's responsibilities used to be creating all the ads, the marketing, the brochures, etc. So I played a big role in creating catchy ad lines and things like that. So it's a God-given ability. It's not a learned ability. It's a God-given ability. So then obviously when I had to name my books, uh, I also thought that not only catchy titles but catchy covers, because there is a saying that people judge a book by its cover. So obviously, when you're, let's say, traveling, you're at an airport bookshop, you go, you just quickly look, there are so many books over there. How do you choose what to buy? A lot of times people choose based on, the title and the cover. So I guess
Okay,
that
okay,
answers.
sir, I think you are very much right. Irrespective of the fact, हम कितना भी कह लें कि do not judge a book by its cover, the people are still going to judge a book by its cover, right? And how I got your first book was when I was in an Oxford bookshop in CP, and I was like going through this Mona or Namo book. I'm like, what's this? And then I went back home. You will not believe. Then I came back 2 weeks later. That who's this? There was this title, and I went to the same corner again, right? And then I bought the entire section of yours, and I began reading, and sir, I wanted to ask, now that you have written on so many catchy titles, what is the next book you are going to write on? Which is it going to be? Is it the Kisan Andolan, or what is it
No,
about?
no, no, I have not thought about writing on the Kisan Andolan, but already started writing a book on Kashmir. Basically, there are dozens and dozens of books written on Kashmir, but I have read a lot of them, and I feel that if I look at my daughter who's 27 years old, or look at her generation, uh, the under 35 generation today in India, they don't know what is the Kashmir problem. They know there is something called the Kashmir problem, but they don't know what is the cause of the Kashmir problem, what exactly is the Kashmir problem, and how it has panned over the years. So it's going to be, again, like most of my books, it's going to be an extremely, extremely simple book to understand what the Kashmir problem is all about, and how things have progressed over the years, progressed or not progressed. So I already have two co-authors in this book. One is Shazia Ilmi, and the other is uh, Lalit Ambadarkar. So he's one of those Kashmiri Pandits displaced from Kashmir and now lives in Delhi. He's often on TV programs. I'm sure that people have seen him. So there are three of us right now. We are searching for a fourth co-author. Uh, we are searching for a Kashmiri Muslim uh, who's going to write the truth, which is, I don't know how difficult or easy it is to find that. But we have talked to a couple of people. Let's see if we get somebody. Then we are going to take him or her on as a fourth co-author. So the structure of the book, the content, the chapters, we have already sort of put that together as to how the book is going to be framed, and some outline, some 7,000-8,000 words have already been written, but there is a long way to go. So let's see. We are hoping that in the next 4-5 months we'll be able to bring that book out.
Sure, sir. That's a very wonderful topic. I always feel that needs to be spoken around, and especially by an author like you, because you have this thing of writing things very simply, and that's how readers connect with your book. That's why your books are so successful. And I want to bring to your notice as well that I want to bring to your notice as well, sir, because due to this very inquisitiveness about the Kashmir issue, we did an episode with Dr. Karan Singh. I sent you that also, entire Kashmir. And, I spent months listening to books, reading books before I wanted to go down. And मैंने वहां से शुरू करा था कि how Kashmir was named. And I just wanted to bring to your knowledge, that's going to be a very big thing because, the youth is very much interested in the Kashmir issue, sir.
Yeah, and also, I went to Kashmir. I spent 9 days there in September and spoke to about 100 people belonging to all classes of society, doing all kinds of jobs, mainly Muslims, of course, but some Hindus also, to just understand their perspective, so that I can put all those things. We can put all those things, in the book as to what people feel about it today.
So this question that you were already doing very much successfully in your life, you already come from a very, decent businessman family, right? And you were very successful in your career. You went to study abroad, and then I saw this picture of you with Guinness Book of World Record in the background also. And you were very successful, right? From what it's there. But then why and how did you choose to write? And why did you choose to write on the topic of politics precisely?
So, firstly, I'll answer the last part of your question. Not all my books are about politics. There
Two
may
are
be
fiction,
some.
sir. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of books I have written about governance, which is not connected with politics. It's governance.
Okay.
Also, I've written two fiction novels, and
Mm-hmm.
also I've written one book on the corporate sector, which is on the House of Tatas, and also I've written a book on spy agencies. So, okay, most of my books are on politics or current affairs, but not all. So I want to clarify that. Now, why did I start writing? So I'll put it like this: I never stopped writing. My first article. In fact, right now I'm in Jaipur, and I went to school here in Jaipur. I went to school from kindergarten to class 3. I went to school here in Jaipur because Rajasthan happens to be my forefathers' home state.
Yes,
Uh,
I read that.
my father had moved to Jaipur for certain business reasons, and so my very early childhood was spent here from kindergarten to class 4. And my first article got published in the St. Xavier School Jaipur newspaper when I was in class 3, uh, when I was 8 years old. So since then, I never stopped writing. So I became in class 11, 12, when I was in Bangalore, in Bishop Cotton School, I was the co-editor of not only the student newspaper, but also the school yearbook. And then in university, I studied journalism as part of the whole, communications degree. I studied journalism. Again, I was news editor of the university newspaper. Uh, and ever since then, whatever business I have been in, I have been writing as a columnist. So I have written over 40-50 articles as a columnist throughout my business career, and therefore when I decided in 2017 that I wanted to take a break, I just wanted to take a sabbatical, sort of a break. I was tired, mentally tired, not physically. From being a consultant in India for 20 years, it's not easy, believe me. So uh, I just wanted to take a break. So when I decided I'm going to take a break, I said, okay, now let me try to author the first book. And when the first two books did very well in the market, then that encouraged me to start writing other books. But Mayank, I'm getting back into business now. I have already gotten back. I've signed something and uh, invested in this tech company in Singapore and bringing them to India. So obviously the frequency or the speed at which I write books will reduce because I will get busy with this new business.
That's a very beautiful way to put things, that I didn't start writing. I, on the first hand, never stopped writing since my childhood, right? So it reminds me of a dialogue from a Bollywood movie that says, if loving you is wrong, then I don't want to be right. So, sir, there's this thing that I wanted to ask you, because you have written a lot on corporate houses, then you have written on spy things. Sir, one question is, so because you connect with a lot of people who write, right? And we can just connect with you and connect with you. So I was a co-editor in my school as well, sir. So I wanted to ask, how do you research and how do you ask people to agree to tell you the insider stories? Like when you were writing for the spy things, right? Though a lot of inside stories, a lot of research work. How do you get that, sir?
So the trick is to talk to retired people. Retired people love to talk. Uh, I mean, I spoke to about three people in who are ex CIA, and they are all like very happy to talk. Let me put it like that. Uh,
Okay.
People who have been in spy agencies, even in Mossad, uh, if you agree, if you are willing to sign an agreement with them that you are not going to disclose their name, they're ready to tell you all secrets. It's not difficult at all. It's very easy.
Okay. So because now comes a lot of things about courage and bravery, right? And today also happens to be the birthday of Osho, who says life begins when fear ends. And there is this thing about you. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So there is this thing about you that everybody's saying that you are very brave and ferocious and courageous. Because what's happening is, sir, I read your incidents about once you got a call from the office of a chief minister, and you said, right, I'm not going to visit you. If you want to come, you're most welcome, right? And then I was reading your Twitter profile, right? I was going tweet by tweet, and with the audacity that you are rebuking people in high offices, and now even in your books you are having great courage to tell people, calling a spade, or even in mockery style that you use that connects with the audience. So how do you get, because you're a common man, right, sir? I believe so. Unless because you by your courage proves not to be, because you keep doing such brave things. So are you not afraid, and where do you get the courage to do that? Because I don't think that a common man can do that.
Mayank, I am only afraid of God. Uh, and I very, very strongly believe. So, as a child, when I was 15 years old, I was involved in an extremely, extremely bad car accident. I was sitting in the front seat. I was not driving. I was 15 years old, and whoever saw that car, whoever saw that the the uh, the damaged car, said nobody could have survived this accident. And also, so it was all my left face and everything which was damaged. I've been through 26 surgeries, but the point is that, and you're a doctor, so you'll probably understand this, that even the senior most doctors of plastic surgery and eye surgery basically said, how is this guy got a vision? How is he able to see? The vision may not be perfect. I may need glasses, but they said that the eye was so badly damaged. There were 54 glass pieces inside the eye, which they could not take out in one surgery. Okay, so it took them about 6-7 surgeries to take out every glass piece. And they said, how is this guy able to see? How does he have a vision? Uh, and I think so. That was the most moving aspect in my life, where uh, I started believing in God very, very strongly, and I said, uh, it's God, it's divine intervention which has saved me. And if you see the reverse, we just 3 days ago lost our chief of defense staff, right? It was no age to go. So again, it was divine intervention. So if you believe very strongly that it is in God's hand to take away your life, then why are you afraid of human beings? That person may be Rahul Gandhi or whoever. I don't care. I don't think that they can harm my life. Of course, let me put a warning over here, statutory health warning, that my kids don't agree with me. So every time I write something which is brave, uh, they get very upset, and they tell me this, that, oh, you shouldn't be writing this, or it's danger, somebody will attack you. Uh, but I guess over a period of time, they've started understanding me better. And I'm sure as they mature, they will also understand that human beings can't harm you.
So, maybe you overcame your accident because you were to provide a vision to not only yourself but to a lot of people who are reading your books, right? So, and
Maybe.
एक and yes, sir. And एक dialogue, sir, if you have seen Welcome movie, and there's this Akshay Kumar that goes to Anil Kapoor, and then he's like, Anil Kapoor supposedly the goon in the movie, or Akshay Kumar is a simple middle class person. तो Akshay Kumar is confronting Anil Kapoor. अनिल कपूर कहता है, अब भाई साहब को हाथ मत लगा देना. तो वो हाथ लगा के दिखाता है, ये लो एक बार और लगा दिया हाथ, ये लो एक बार और लगा दिया. I'll send you that picture. फिर अनिल कपूर, who's supposedly the biggest goon of the area in that movie, is like, लगता है इसके पीछे एक ही आदमी हो सकता है, हमसे बड़ा तो केवल ब्रैक ओबामा ही है. शहर में. You should watch that movie, sir. That completely fits, because people are thinking that somebody is behind you. Okay. So, sir, you have been saying that, social media, you have been saying and you have been proving it, right? That social media will choose our prime ministers, this one also, and the next one also, Sir, but so far, and yet, they say that social media has still not reached a lot of households in India. So, please tell us, why do you think that social media will choose our next governments? And do you think that voting will be on social media as well in the future?
See, the day for voting to be there on not social media. The voting will never be on social media. The voting
On
may,
digital platforms.
yeah, on a digital platform, maybe an Election Commission of India based digital platform. Maybe not till 2029. Definitely not in 2024. But it may happen in the 2029 Lok Sabha election. But that apart, uh, so if I am on social media and I am reading something, my driver, who is a Christian, who has been with us for 29 years. So when I saw the picture of Modi ji hugging the Pope when he visited Vatican City last month, I immediately forwarded that to my driver on WhatsApp. And then when I sat in the car next, I told him, "Dekho, Modi ji Christians ke against nahi hai," because my driver has been against Modi ji. A lot of minorities are against Modi ji. They think that, oh, he hates Muslims, or he hates Christians, etc., etc. You won't believe it that same night, my driver actually sent me 2 videos, which were again of that topic of Modi ji meeting the Pope. So what I'm saying is that the driver is not on social media, right? But because I have the ability to sort of, pass the message on. So even if there are 30%, or I don't know, 60% of Indians who are not on social media, the people who are on social media can influence them. And the
Yes.
reason why I say social media is because social media today is the quickest in terms of news reaching you. So if there is some attack, some student in some Texas school has done some shooting, you know, it comes on social media within 20 minutes. You'll get to hear about it on Twitter. And if you put on your TV and you see CNN, they have nothing about it. It won't be another 1.5 hours or 2 hours till the time that CNN starts carrying that news. And as far as the newspaper is concerned, it's too late because it's the next morning, right? So social media, even though we are right now on a platform called Insta, right? Instagram is not the only Insta platform, right? Even Twitter or Facebook are also Insta platforms, right? They are able to
Okay.
bring news or events instantly. So when the helicopter crashed, unfortunate, tragedy that we had 3 days ago, when the helicopter crashed, right? News about that came on social media about 45 minutes before the news channel started carrying that news, or not 45,
Okay.
maybe 20 minutes before. The news channels actually see it on social media and then they start carrying the news.
Yes.
And why I say that social media has got a uh, very very strong effect. Take for example the Kashi Vishwanath corridor, right? I've been
Mm-hmm.
seeing pictures in the last 15-20 days of people who have visited the revamped Kashi Vishwanath corridor. Although that work is not completely, it's not completely over. There's still a lot to be done, but a lot of it is over. And people who have visited Varanasi and taken pictures of that Kashi Vishwanath corridor have been posting it on Twitter. And so sitting in Bangalore, I can see what is happening in Varanasi, right? And I don't get that news from television because
Yeah.
television is not doing what is happening in Kashi Vishwanath corridor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Newspapers are not talking about it, and that's why I say that that the influence of social media is strong. I hope I've been able to fairly answer your question.
Yeah, yes, sir. You have been, and I agree with you, right, sir? So there is this one question that you have never spoken. Why and by whom were you kidnapped once?
Why and whom? Okay, I won't name the whom, except to say that he was a very big businessman in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat. Very very well politically connected and all of that. The why I'll tell you, because in those days I was India's leading hospital consultant from 1997 to 2001, and a client, a Gujarati businessman based in Jamnagar, had signed us on to be the consultants for a project, for a hospital project that he wanted to build on a very prime land in the heart of Ahmedabad city, and a very large hospital. If I remember, it was going to be about a 300-bed hospital. Now, this businessman who kidnapped me, uh, he also had a large hospital in the heart of Ahmedabad city, and he thought, he obviously realized that this new hospital which will come will be more modern and therefore will be a competition to his existing hospital. So I
Okay.
don't know. Some sources he may have found out that such and such organization is the consultant, and then
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, through political connections or whatever, found out when I landed in Ahmedabad, and I reached my hotel, which is very close to the airport. I think it was the Trident Hotel. Uh, there were already his goons waiting for me, and they pretended as if they are on behalf of my client and they are going to take me to my client site. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they. So I thought, okay, you know.
Okay.
But it's only once I reached his house, his compound, and there were so many dogs, Dobermans, and all kinds of ferocious dogs, gunmen, and all of those things. Then I was blindfolded. Then I was taken down some steps in some corridors and everything. And then I realized that, oh my God, I've been kidnapped by somebody. So yeah, interesting experience.
So did you help complete the hospital of the other person?
No. So what happened is that for some reason the Jamnagar-based businessman decided not to go ahead with the project. It had nothing to do with. I don't know whether it had anything to do with the kidnapping or not, But basically, when my patta was opened, my thing was opened in front of this man, you know, he said, "आप चले जाओ वापस,
Okay.
हॉस्पिटल का काम नहीं करना है." तो ऐसे क्यों क्यों नहीं करना है और क्यों चले जाऊं? बोलो कि आपको डर नहीं लगा? सो ऐसे नहीं, आपके कुत्तों से, मैं कुत्तों से नहीं. So then he was like, okay, man, this guy must be having guts. So he actually got up, he hugged me, and he said, ठीक है, आप करो प्रोजेक्ट करो, आप मैं आपके रास्ते में नहीं आऊंगा. And then he
Okay.
asked somebody to give some snacks, you know. So he served some chai, samosa, and some sweets and all that. And he gave his number and he said कि आपको अगर गुजरात में कोई भी तकलीफ है तो आप मुझे कांटेक्ट करना. सो आफ्टर दैट ही बिकेम वेरी नाइस, बट आई डोंट नो, फॉर सम रीजन द क्लाइंट ओनली डिसाइडेड नॉट टू गो अहेड विद द प्रोजेक्ट.
Okay. Okay, sir. Because see, your books give a lot of mind opening, out of the box thinking to us who don't know about what's happening in the country, right? Because we don't go behind the lines and between the lines to read, right? But there are some futuristic things that you have been telling in your books. First is, I wanted to ask, what are the urgent electoral reforms you suggest? A is right to recall, deleting Rajya Sabha, form of presidential elections like the USA in India, or increasing the Lok Sabha number of seats to 1400, or bringing the
So,
blockchain technology.
so all of them are important, but in my view, the most important reform that has to be done, which is not an electoral reform, out of the ones that you have listed, because there are many other more important reforms like
Yes.
police and judicial reforms and others that India needs. And I
Mm.
have elaborately talked about it in 72 at 72, and then
Yes,
there's
yes.
a summary in a recent book, Congress Mukh Bharat. But I'm going to write another book on this, which I'm targeting to bring out. Yeah, so this book has Congress Mukh Bharat has some summary of that reform. But the extensive 72 at 72 is basically about 72 reforms. And I had sent that book to several very senior people in the government, not just the ministers, but also the bureaucrats. And there was a good feedback from some of these bureaucrats that, oh, you have written very good suggestions and we are going to implement it. And I'm very, very happy to say that out of those 72 reforms, 8 or 9 have already been implemented. Education
Okay.
reforms being one of them. Uh, Doing away with the mugging or rote learning, as they call it in the US, to pass
Hmm.
exams. Not
Hmm.
judging people by memory, but
Yes.
about have they learnt the skill or not. But coming back to
Hmm.
electoral or political reforms or governance reforms, why I say that we need a presidential form of government, people need to understand this. I don't think that the American system is the best system. Okay, the American
Hmm.
system has its own flaws. There are a lot of
Hmm.
problems. In France, they have a dual system. They have a parliament also and a president also. And again, there are a
Hmm.
lot of problems in that system also. What I am suggesting is a system in India where, call it presidential, call it whatever, where the leader of the country, the head of government.
Hmm.
Uh, so currently Narendra Modi is the head of government, right? So Narendra Modi has to pick his cabinet, right? So he has to pick his defense minister. Then he picks. Last time he picked Nirmala Sitharaman. This time he's picked Rajnath Singh. Why? Does Nirmala Sitharaman or Rajnath Singh or Manohar Parrikar before that, are these specialists in defense? No, they are not. The only specialist in defense in this government is General VK Singh,
VK Singh, yes.
former chief of army staff. But
Yes, sir.
because defense ministry is one of the 4 top ministries and VK Singh is too junior, therefore Narendra Modi
Okay.
not able to pick him. He has to pick a Rajnath Singh who is very senior in the party, right?
Okay.
Uh, when he picks the law minister, which was earlier Ravi Shankar Prasad or
Ravi
currently
Shankar Prasad.
Kiran Rijiju, he is not picking the senior most lawyer or one of the top 10 lawyers as the law minister. He is picking a politician, right? In the American system, no member of the cabinet needs to be a politician, and has not been. Typically, if you look at the last 5 presidents or the last 6 presidents or even the last 12 presidents and the 11, basically America has 11 senior cabinet positions. None of the 11 have been politicians. They have been specialists in their field. So
Okay.
the equivalent in America of our finance minister is called Treasury Secretary. So
Okay.
generally, the Treasury Secretary has been somebody who comes from the finance field, so comes from banking.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
in 1991, P.V. Narasimha Rao as Prime Minister picked Dr. Manmohan Singh
Manmohan Singh. Yes.
as the finance minister because Dr. Manmohan Singh was a specialist in the field. So that was
Yes.
one great thing that had happened back in 1991.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, but such things are not happening today. I mean, in a way, Modi ji has done a few picks which are based on the ability of the person. So Ashwini Vaishnav,
Like
who's recently been made railway and electronics and IT
railways.
minister,
Yeah.
yeah, he's not a politician. Hardeep Singh Puri is not a politician.
S.
The,
Jaishankar.
Singh, who's the electricity minister, is not a politician. Dr. S. Jaishankar, yes, your example is extremely right. Dr. S. Jaishankar is the American choice. When I say American choice, Dr. S. Jaishankar is a career diplomat who has served in the three most important missions, which is Washington D.C., uh, Beijing, and Moscow. Okay, and he speaks 3 foreign languages, including Russian and Japanese.
Okay.
And so, that is the way you should pick your cabinet, not fill it with politicians. Okay, but unfortunately, if tomorrow, out of the 77 ministers that he has, 8 of them today are qualified professionals. If the rest of the 69, if Modi ji removes them in the next reshuffle and fills his cabinet only with people who are qualified for that post, there is going
Mm.
to be a revolt in the party. The party will split.
Mm.
Can you imagine Amit Shah not being a minister? Can you imagine Rajnath Singh not being a minister? In the current Indian system, it's not possible because then they will overthrow the prime minister. So that's the most important reform. Okay. The second
Okay.
most important reform is uh, so again connected reform is that there has to be a minimum qualification for a person to become an MP or an MLA. So just like if
Mm.
my son wants to go and do an MBA abroad, he has to do the GMAT test, right? And the
Okay.
GMAT test basically tests skills, right? So when you wanted to become a doctor, you had to pass through uh, the common
Yes.
entrance, right?
Yes.
I mean, today it may be whatever NEET or whatever, but I'm saying that
Mm.
earlier
Yeah.
when you wanted to apply for
I've heard.
admission,
Yes.
right? So even to become a member of parliament or an MLA, they must pass a certain test. At least a member of parliament should know how many districts India has. Uh, they should know what India's population is. They should know what our GDP is. They should know simple things. Otherwise, why are they members of parliament? I mean, we have goons, unqualified goons as members of parliament, and worst in our assemblies, in MLAs who don't know crap. I mean, if you ask today, if you take all the MLAs in Karnataka and ask them what is the capital of Manipur, I think apart from 3 or 4 people, they won't be able to tell you what the capital of Manipur is.
Mm.
Okay. And once this minimum test is passed, then there has to be, like in the US, according to me, a debate, a televised debate, where a famous TV anchor, it could be anybody, it could be even a Rajdeep Sardesai for all I care. I don't, even though I dislike him as much as I could, it could be an Arnab, it could be anybody. Ask them tough questions on a 2-hour televised interview. And then the public see the response of all the candidates, right? And then what happens is, so when there is the US presidential election, there may be there may be 18 people running in the first round. So usually they don't have debates of more than 10 people at a time. So the 18 will be by lottery picked in two lots. Okay. And so it'll be 9 and 9. 9 in debate 1, 9 in debate 2. So what happens is that based on their responses is how they get the political donations. Okay. So the
Okay.
US has got a very, very well organized system of of the ordinary Aam Aadmi donating to political candidates. Again, it's restricted.
Mm-hmm.
One candidate can only get $2,700 in 1 year. Okay, from one individual. Okay, and I
Okay, from one individual, yes.
in Congress Mukh Bharat, I've equalized that to India and how much can be collected in India, what is the affordability in India. I've given some facts and figures, right? But what I'm saying is that if one particular of those 18 candidates starts talking rubbish and not able to answer question, that person is not going to get the funding, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in my view, if Rahul Gandhi was on one of those debates, he would not even go to round two. So there may be three other congressmen in that debate, right? And they may get more funding, right? So, and political candidates need funding, right? So let's say in
Yes.
round two you're down to 12 people. Then again you have two more debates, which is six, right? And then in round three you're down to 5 people. Then in round four you're down to 3 people. Finally, at the end of it, the last round you only had 2 people, and the 2 people actually have 3 rounds of debates. So when
Okay.
the American voter is going to go and press that button,
Mm-hmm.
the American voter has already seen the candidate go through so many debates and answer so many questions that the voter knows that this man or this lady matches my thinking. And that's the reason
Mm-hmm.
I'm voting for this person.
You're right, sir. You're right.
Today you're blindly voting. You're voting because I because I'm an author today and I've written political books, I'm really knowing my member of parliament, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the 30 lakh, the not 30 lakh, 20 lakh electorate of Bangalore Central do not know who they are voting for. They are
Mm-hmm.
going and voting because they want to vote for Congress or they want to vote for BJP. That's not the way you should elect people. You should elect, you're not electing a party, you should elect the person. We need the right people in parliament. And the same thing in assemblies.
Vedant Sabha, yes, sir. Uh, for it to happen, sir, what I feel is that, the public should be equally, interested, like you said, right? I mean, the Indian audience at right now, or in the Indian public, on a personal level, feel is not, interested enough into to look and to choose people by their qualifications. I mean, they will still choose people by their strength and by their popularity and all those reasons. So,
That doesn't matter. Even the American voter also chooses on many parameters. Okay, but
mm,
all I'm saying is the American voter is better informed when they go and vote.
mm,
The Indian voter has not seen, Indian voter only sees, oh, there's an election rally. This candidate was able to get 1 lakh person in the rally. This candidate was only able to
mm.
get 1,000 people in the rally. That's what the
Yes,
Indian voter.
yeah,
The Indian,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir.
yeah, but the Indian voter needs to be better informed. We are not stupid. I'm telling you, we are not
Yes.
stupid anymore. The Indian electorate is not stupid anymore. The reason why Narendra Modi got a bigger mandate in 2019 is because of the work that he did.
Okay. I agree, sir. So, there's one more thing that I wanted to ask, sir. Uh, uh, so there are some things that I wanted to ask, but I will not bring them up. One was that, right, like picking up the right intellectual people for the ministries, the prime minister choosing the right people to
Yeah.
choose the ministers, right? Now, as is the case of Indian CEOs in the West, there was this article by Francois Goiter or something that said, right, they hardly help India, and same goes with Indian politicians in the West. They hardly seem to help India in its causes, right? Be it the Kashmir issue or be it in other things. Similarly, sir, I want to bring up this anecdote. Anecdote is when two ministers who were chosen from their specialities, but they, as it appears, got very unpopular. One of them still happens to be the very highly trained S. Jaishankar, and the other happens to be Mr. Harshvardhan, Dr. Harshvardhan. He also got very unpopular. Those were my just opinions that I felt.
No, but wait a
Uh,
minute. Dr. Harshvardhan is not amongst the top 100 doctors in India, or even the top 1,000, or even the top 10,000, right? So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
ordinary, as a doctor, not a
Mhm.
extremely accomplished doctor. Again, he
Mhm.
was health minister because he was a senior member of the BJP, right?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
So, what you mean by saying that Dr. Jaishankar has got unpopular? Why has Dr. Jaishankar got unpopular?
So, see, I don't know as to what I mean. Some deeper things as to, because what is being presented to us. I mean, coming, because there's this question that says, that you have been mentioning a lot about USA, Pakistan, and everything, but mentions about China other than the COVID, still find it hard in the mainstream of your books. And the India China standoff, and so these issues are still the core of heart of Indian
I have
politics.
written about the India-China standoff very extensively in Congress Mukh Bharat, but the point is, Dr. Mayank, what is the point in writing and writing and writing and writing about China? Believe me, writing against China is not going to get us anywhere. And you know, without going into the confidential part of the discussion, when I met the Prime Minister, uh, he was able to sort of, he and I related on this point, that writing about China is not going to get us anywhere. Okay. Also, you can't fight a war against China militarily. Okay. Because that country and that crazy leader that they have, Xi Jinping, he is ready to sacrifice lakhs and lakhs of his soldiers. Okay. He doesn't care. He doesn't care for Chinese lives. Okay. Which has been proven with the coronavirus. He doesn't care about
Yes,
Chinese lives
yes.
being lost. The
Mm-hmm.
only way, which there have been a lot of social media campaigns, but what happens is they peak and then they fizzle out. They peak and then they fizzle out. The only
Mm-hmm.
way to hurt China is to stop buying Chinese products. That's the only way to hurt China. Public has to stop buying Chinese products. Government cannot keep banning everything. Okay? It's not possible. Because the governments also need to justify to the World Trade Organization and to other world bodies as to why they are
Mm-hmm.
banning some particular thing. You can ban apps because that's a different issue. Okay? But you can't say that I'm not going to allow Chinese rice to come in, I'm not going to allow Chinese computer components to come in, etc., etc., etc. So India has to build a stronger manufacturing ecosystem, which is already happening through the Atmanirbhar Bharat and the
Yes.
Make in India program, right? We have started manufacturing a lot more things like mobile phones that we were not manufacturing earlier. India has
Yes,
become the
sir.
world's second largest producer of mobile phones. We have to put in
Okay.
more and more factories and increase the capacity of existing factories, which are replacement of Chinese imports. Okay. And when
Okay,
we
sir.
achieve that, and I'm using the word when, I'm not using the word if, okay, because I know India will do it. It may take us 7 years, it may take us 9 years, but when we achieve that, when in 9 years from now or 7 years from now, we are able to replace 80% of Chinese imports with Indian goods, okay, that day, if Xi Jinping is still in charge, he will come with his head bowed down to the table. And that's what the whole
Okay.
world needs to do. Okay? The whole world for the last 35 years has been buying Chinese products because they were cheap. And that's what has
Mm-hmm.
made China so strong. So that cycle has to be reversed. You take the top 100 journalists in India, they can write one article every week, right? So you can have 100 articles against China a week. How does it hurt China? It doesn't affect China. It doesn't. Dr. Brahma Chelani is writing articles against China or putting tweets against China every day, but how does it help?
Mm-hmm. I understand, sir. Oh, thanks for bringing out the fire in you. That reflects the fire of the entire country right now. Okay, sir. Moving on to the next question. In the book, Modi stole my mask. What do you say, sir? Because the whole world is being saying on that Kumbhs and political rallies were not, if all, but in some way responsible for the spread of COVID, right? And what vultures are you talking about that benefit when the image, that the prime minister was leading in spreading the COVID due to Kumbh and due to the political rallies?
So 100% right from the first chapter onwards, I have said that Kumbh was responsible. Okay. I have not said that Kumbh was not responsible. I have said, me and my co-author Savio Rodriguez, we have said Kumbh was responsible. Okay. However, we have given a comparison later on in the book about the number of people, the number of cases that went up from Kumbh compared to the number of cases that went up based on Christmas shopping in the US. Okay. The
Okay.
number of cases that went up based on Christmas shopping in the US were 9 times more when you take it as a percentage of population. If I remember
Mm-hmm.
correctly, 9 times more than the number of cases
Mm-hmm.
that went up compared to Kumbh. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Political rallies, okay. I have not said political rallies were not responsible. I have shown one comparison that I will be the wrong word to use, we, because there's a co-author in the book. We have shown a comparison of cases rising in 17 or 18 states after the elections. And it's graphs which are based on numbers. These are not graphs that we have created. Okay. We've
Mm-hmm.
got it, an organization which used to follow all the, COVID data, covid19india.org. Okay. The graphs prove that the number of cases rose more sharply in many non-election states, which are not even bordering on the election states. So again, uh, for for example, Maharashtra, right? So cases rose very rapidly in Maharashtra and in Punjab where there were no elections. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, much more sharply than West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, where there were elections. Okay, so that proves that elections were not the only cause of a rise of cases. Number one. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
there is a whole chapter which gives down the issues that would have happened if there were no elections. Would it have been acceptable to political parties? Why and why not? So as simple as that. As far as who are the vultures are people like Navneet Kalra, who imported the oxygen concentrators. Even 4 months before the second wave began. The vultures are people who reserved ICU beds. They reserved ICU beds by blocking them. Again, you're a doctor, you'll understand this. I
Yes,
don't know
sir.
which hospital you work in, but I have dealt a lot with hospitals. Today, I can make a bulk booking of 60 hotel rooms for my daughter's wedding. Can you make a bulk booking of 30 ICU beds saying that I'm reserving it because I'm expecting this one bus to come, from Uttarakhand, which is going to bring 30 ICU patients? I don't know when. Please block them for 15 days. Will your
No,
hospital
sir.
do it?
No, sir. They cannot allow
No,
it.
in the state that I live in Karnataka, that's what happened. Okay? Municipal officials blocked hospital beds blocked lots of ICU beds for a long period of time. There were other people involved. Politicians were involved, businessmen were involved. And this didn't happen only in Karnataka, this happened in many states. Okay? These are the kind of vultures. They prepared for making money from the second wave because if they gave, let's say, the hospital, they entered into a contract for an ICU bed at, I don't know, 15,000 rupees per day. They were selling this ICU bed when the actual patient needed it. They were selling it at 40,000, 50,000, 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
They were trading on people's health.
Okay. Yes, sir. We got to know a lot of things during COVID, and it was disheartening. And because you asked, I wanted to also tell you, sir. I posted as a frontline worker in COVID in the COVID wards. I'm in Lok Nayak Hospital, like I told you previously also. And yes, during my work in COVID, I got two certificates of appreciations, one from the medical director of the hospital and one from the head of the department. And
Mm.
yes, uh, and yes, it was very difficult. Even now, I don't think so that we can book ICU bed, because if I get a call from somebody wants ICU bed, the first question is, yeah, will I be able to, even for one bed? I'm not sure, right? And yes, after that, my name was sent by the Delhi government for the master COVID trainers for the third wave. So I'm trained after that as a master COVID trainer for the third wave. Yeah.
Mm.
So yes, since but you brought out that that this was happening. I'm not even sure that even if any unfortunate event happens, I may be able to book even one bed. I'm not sure about that. Being in the same hospital, but yes, if that was happening and people were dying like crazy, so it was a very unfortunate incident. And yes, those people are vultures who booked and made money out of
Yeah,
this thing. Even this restaurant in Khan Market, Khan Chacha, was, I mean,
that's what
holding
I
on
said.
concentrators.
Kalra is the owner of
Yeah.
Khan Chacha. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you one thing, okay? For those who have not read Modi Stole My Mask, India was not the worst affected. India was not even the second worst affected. India was not even the third worst affected. Amongst the 20 countries which were most affected by COVID, 20 countries, India was number
Mm-hmm.
16. So we were
17.
better than 16 of those 20 countries. And there is data uh, in the book which shows that with graphs, and like one of the reviewers has written, beta can lie, data cannot. And I'm
Okay,
sure you
sir.
understand who he means by beta, right?
So, in your books, because you have been writing, you have decoded a lot of scams. Yes, a lot of scams since the independence era, and it's opening our brains. The youth is reading, they are commenting, but I think so. There's nothing or very less has been said on Vyapam, Jhiram Ghati Kand, Yedurappa scams. Yes, you have been talking a lot about it also. Will it
No, no,
be
I,
not wrong?
no, I think you're confused. Okay. All these scams that you're naming are state government scams. I have not written about any Congress era state government scams, because then the book will be about 6,000 pages. It'll have to have 10 volumes. Okay. All
Okay.
these scams that I have covered in Congress Mukh Bharat, for example, are central government scams, and they are big scams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I
Okay.
have not covered any state government scams. The Vyapam and the Yadurappa and all that you're talking about are state government scams. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If one starts writing about the state government scams, it'll become an encyclopedia. Okay. And it'll be too
Yes,
boring.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be too boring. But sir, there's this question that we feel that uh, should there have been mentioned? Of course, there were scams during the BJP central governments, but should there have been a mention of? I mean, the BJP scams
Has
that
there been,
were.
has there been one scam of central government during Modi's 7.5 years?
So that's because you you are the writer. You have brought out so many scams which you're not aware, like thorium scam. You explained that I was not aware about, right? That's for the authors like you. If you look through the lens
I
of
have looked.
penetration
I have
and deep.
looked. I have looked through the lens. Okay, and in Congress Mukh Bharat, I have very severely criticized Narendra Modi for the mistakes that he has made. Right. Even I have given a complete analysis of his then ministry, which has since then changed. Okay, where I have given points on a scale of 0 to 10 to each minister. Okay, and the
Mm-hmm.
entire cabinet got only an average of 6.56. And if you look at
Mm-hmm.
those pages, Mayank, you will
Yes,
see
sir.
all those people who got below 6. Most of them are not there in the ministry anymore. Okay,
Okay.
so I have tried to hunt, and I keep hunting for any central government scam of the last 7 years, 7.5 years. I am not able to find any central government scam. I keep asking people. I meet so many people. I keep asking them कि क्या पैसे नहीं खिला रहे हो, क्या ये नहीं कर रहे हो, वो नहीं कर रहे हो, and no, it's happening in the BJP state governments. Okay, it is happening in almost every BJP state government. I live in Karnataka, one of the most corrupt states in India, whether the Congress is in power or the BJP is in power, and corruption happens at the state level, At the municipal level, it won't be 10 volumes, it will be 10,000 volumes of books that you can write about the corruption at the municipal level or at the Gram Panchayat level. But at the central government level, no, there has not been a single scam.
Thanks for letting us know, sir, because now we are seeing the world through your lens, now that we are reading a lot of your books. So I have been following you on Twitter, and there is some funny things that you posted on Twitter. One was the uh, India during the rains. So there was this mud collection on the road, and there was an India map made out of rain, right?
Yeah.
So I really like that. I will include that in the video. But sir, there's this one question that happened, sir. In your books, you mentioned that, in Mona or Namo, you said that, if Modi has to win the 2019 election, they should do a small attack on Pakistan, and before Diwali, we will win. And that's how you go on to explain that we will disintegrate Pakistan into three states. And that will lead to a popularity surge of Modi, and then he can win the 2019 elections, which of course he won. But Pulwama happened. Sir, when an author like you is a think tank and the party takes into serious considerations, a lot of bureaucrats see your things, right? So when you are advising and writing in your books about, we can do this and we can do that. So would it be wrong, because Pulwama just happened before the elections? Would it be wrong to think that Pulwama may have been happened by some insiders, as it's said in the back end channels and all that stuff, sir?
I don't know whether the Modi government will go to an extent of sacrificing 40 lives of CRPF, lives of 40 CRPF personnel uh, to actually go and therefore attack, do the Balakot strikes. Uh, yes, I have written about it in my first book that in order to win the 2019 election, they will have to take some military action. And I will say it again, whether I write a book on it or not, I don't know. On the next election, in the 2024 election, it's going to be even much, much, much more difficult for the Modi-led NDA to come back to power. And this time, India, or his government, will have to take even stronger military steps against Pakistan or maybe even China. Okay, but that doesn't mean that I'm advising the government to kill Indians to do that. Okay, not at all. I would never advise anybody to kill one Indian in order to be able to achieve an election victory. That's all I can say. Uh,
Yes,
there is
sir. I
Parakram news. I keep seeing you
Yes.
Twitter also asking about boycott of Beijing Olympics. I think there is a misunderstanding about this. The countries which have announced the boycott are not boycotting the Olympics from a sports person's perspective. Their sports persons are still going to participate in the Beijing Olympics. They are doing a diplomatic boycott, which means that elected officials of those countries are not going to go to the Beijing Olympics. So this diplomatic boycott is like laughable. It means nothing. If those
It's
countries
like
sports people are still going to go to participate in the Olympics, how does it matter whether the prime minister or president goes or not?
it's like a paper tiger.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Now coming to some off the beat questions. Okay, for the viewers of your books and readers. Subject youth should graduate from if somebody wants to be successful in politics.
Um, I wish there was a subject in which you could graduate called patriotism, uh, because I think that would be the most important subject that you would need uh, to to be a successful politician. But in the absence of that, since there is nothing called patriotism or nationalism, then I would think geopolitics uh, would be the appropriate subject. I don't know, frankly, whether as part of our political science, as part of the political science syllabus in so many universities that offer the courses in India, whether geopolitics is taught or not, because you can't live
Not
in silo. You can't only knowing about India. You have to know about what you have to get into the Xi Jinping's mind. You have to get into Putin's mind. You have to get into Biden's mind. You have to get into the mind of other global leaders to be able to be successful as an Indian leader. Just take, for example, I'm reading a very, very interesting book. One of the most interesting books non-fiction book that I've read in my life. It's called The Psychology of Money. Okay. I'm reading
Yes,
it
sir.
right now.
Yes.
I finished about, okay. I think everybody's
I
reading
finished
it
it as
because
well,
on the
sir.
flight,
Yes.
yeah, on the flights, I keep seeing people reading it. I mean, it's become extremely
Yes, sir.
popular. I think it's amongst the global top 10 today. A
Yes,
recent
sir.
new
Yes.
book. And you know, the interesting thing that he says is that it's not it's not mathematics or science that can help you to uh, earn money in the stock markets. It is the psychology. So it is about how you think of money and how you treat money and how you love or hate money or how you spend money, the psychology of money. It's how a human being emotionally relates to money that
Mm-hmm.
will decide. So, how Mayank emotionally relates to money versus how I emotionally relate to money will decide whether who earns more money. So similarly, I think politician, it has to be the psychology of politics. They need to understand the psychology of politics, right? So unless they are a
Mm-hmm.
patriot,
Yes,
a
sir.
nationalist, and they understand the geopolitics, and they understand how to read the mind of our competitors, I'll put it like that. I won't call them our enemies, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
competitors,
Mm-hmm.
like Xi Jinping or Putin or Joe Biden or whoever takes over those posts later, unless they are able to study the psychology of those people, you'll not at least rise. You know, you may get elected, become an MLA and MP. You'll never become a chief minister or a prime minister. Chief minister, forget it. I don't know how people in India become chief minister because 80% don't deserve it. But at least prime minister, if you hope to get there, uh, that I think is the mantra.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Uh, Thanks for this valuable advice, sir. Okay. Now, according to your genre of vast knowledge, what do you think is the most memorable moment in the history of Indian politics after independence?
I think the most memorable moment is 26th May 2014 when uh, when Narendra Modi took oath of office as Prime Minister of India.
Okay. I knew you would
I'm
say
not
that.
hiding the fact that I'm a big fan of his. I'm not a big fan of his party. I'm not
Okay.
a big fan of the BJP party. Okay,
Mm.
I'm a big fan of the man Narendra Modi. I'm not hiding that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
openly admit.
Advice to a 30-year-old who wants to join politics.
Don't.
That's a wrong advice, sir. You can say read my books.
No, I don't think a 30-year-old should be dreaming of joining politics. There are many more things you can do. Uh, Politics is a dirty game. It's not meant for everybody. That's what I would say.
Okay. Best books you suggest that are required for the youth of politics.
Best books on politics?
So best books you suggest that are very important to develop a mindset on politics for the youth, for the leaders of tomorrow.
Uh, well, you got to read about Chanakya
Hmm.
because, in my mind, there has never been a better politician in the history of the world. Uh,
Okay.
so, any book that you can get hold of on Chanakya.
Arthashastra, there's this Arthashastra, right?
Yeah. So, Arthashastra by itself is extremely complex to understand, but there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
interpretations of Arthashastra that have been written. So, those will be good to read. Uh,
Okay.
the best part of it is what was applicable hundreds of years ago is still applicable today.
Okay.
Uh,
Sir, yes.
Go ahead.
Actually, I've not read Arthashastra or Chanakya. I have not even watched Chanakya, but I've heard a lot of him. But I'm reading a lot of history from the Western culture that happens to be, 48 laws of power, art of seduction, laws of human nature. Then comes The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I'm reading that, but yes, there's still a big desire to read the Shastra. Yes.
Yeah, no,
Any other move?
all the books that you named are very good books to read. Yes, but there are again, we are talking in the Indian context, right? So the Art of War and books like that, they are not uh, related to the geography, so they are good across any geography. But many of the books are related to a particular geography. So what may work in England may not work in India. What may work in the US may not work in India. Uh, so we should try and read more about Indian. I have extremely high regard for Sardar Patel. So any
Okay,
decent,
Sardar Patel.
yeah, yeah. So I feel very strongly that either he or Subhash Chandra Bose should have been the first Prime Minister of India instead of Jawaharlal Nehru. And believe me, if either of them, if either Sardar Patel or Subhash Chandra Bose, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, would have been the first Prime Minister of India, Nehru, today India would have been a bigger superpower than China.
Okay, sir. Okay, last question, sir. Best author as per you.
So, very difficult to answer the question if you're talking about political books or you're talking about non-fiction books, Mayank, because not many authors have been able to write more than one good, one very good non-fiction book or two very good fiction books. So I mostly read fiction. So if you want me to tell you the favorite authors, my favorite authors in fiction, I can.
Sure, sir. Tell us.
So Brad Thor, David Baldacci, Lee Child, uh, and David Patterson. So these are my favorite. Of course, Jeffrey Archer. So these are my five favorite authors in the world of fiction. I do not have, again, I will repeat, I do not have a favorite non-fiction author because I have not read the great second book or third book from authors who've written a fantastic first book. I'm not
Okay.
saying their first book. It may be their sixth book or their seventh book, right? So many of the authors have written one great book in non-fiction, but not been able to sort of replicate it. One example is Shashi Tharoor. So he's written a couple of brilliant books, but out of all his 15, 16 books that he's written, the rest of them are not worth it. They're all self-praise books. If I mean, that's my answer.
Which of his book do you like? Because I have this Pax Indica. I didn't approve of it a lot.
Which book did you like?
I didn't like. I mean, I have his book called Pax Indica.
Yeah.
I mean, which of his book I wanted
You
to
didn't
ask
like
was your.
you didn't like Pax Indica, or you
I have
did?
not read much of it. I just picked on it, but yes, maybe because I had a lot of books at my hand, I've not finished or maybe proceeded in that. So, which was, or according to you, is the best book of Shashi Tharoor, sir?
So I will not name the book. All I can say is that read uh, read any of his books written between 2000 to 2005.
So that's before he joined the government.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Okay, sir.
his whole mentality, everything changed after that.
Okay, sir. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, sir. And believe me, as I had heard about you, I still find you as brave and as ferocious as you were in your books. You were very vocal and you were very much. And yes, podcast for me is a lesson of learning and building a relationship for a lifetime. Sir, I really again want to thank you on behalf of my viewers and for giving this time of yours, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for time.
Bye.